The Cold War ended in 1991. The Soviet Union collapsed, and America emerged as the world's sole superpower. But 3 decades later, a new rivalry has taken shape, one that could define the 21st century. This time, it's not the United States versus the Soviet Union, it's the United States versus China. But history has a way of repeating itself, or at least echoing. As the U.S. celebrated its unipolar moment, across the Pacific, China was quietly transforming. In the late 1970s, economic reforms under Deng Xiaoping opened the door to markets, manufacturing, and trade. What began as low-cost production for foreign companies evolved into a new industrial powerhouse. By the early 2000s, the world was buying Chinese-made goods at an unprecedented scale. From sneakers to smartphones, China became the factory of the world. By the time the U.S. was bogged down in wars in the Middle East, China had already risen to become the world's second-largest economy. Its GDP, once dwarfed by America's, surged with double-digit growth. Hundreds of millions were lifted from poverty, while Beijing invested in infrastructure, high-speed rail, and megacities that seemed to spring up overnight.
But economic power is only part of the story. For the United States, dominance has always relied not just on wealth, but on the ability to control the future through technology, innovation, and global influence. And this is where the rivalry has sharpened. In the 21st century, the new battleground is not the jungles of Vietnam or the deserts of Afghanistan. It is the digital world, semiconductors, artificial intelligence, 5G, and space exploration. Whoever leads in technology may lead the world. The U.S. accuses China of hacking, corporate espionage, and intellectual property theft. China, in turn, claims America is trying to contain its rise with sanctions and restrictions. Huawei, TikTok, Nvidia, and Apple, these names are no longer just businesses. They are pawns in a larger game, tools of national strategy, symbols of an unfolding contest for global supremacy. This is no longer just about who has the biggest army. It's about who builds the fastest chips, who commands the networks of tomorrow, and who writes the rules of the digital age. The Cold War of the past was about missiles and ideologies. The new Cold War may be fought in code, satellites, and silicon.
Technology may be the new frontier, but military might still casts the longest shadow. The Soviet Union once squared off against the United States with nuclear arsenals and armored divisions. Today, China's military rise is equally dramatic. From the South China Sea to the Taiwan Strait, Beijing has expanded its capabilities at breathtaking speed. Modern aircraft carriers, hypersonic missiles, advanced drones, and a navy now larger than America's all signal China's intent to project power beyond its shores. At the center of these tensions lies Taiwan. For Beijing, the island is a breakaway province, an unfinished chapter of history. For Washington, Taiwan is a democratic partner and a crucial hub in the global semiconductor supply chain. Any spark here could ignite a conflict with consequences that would reverberate across the globe. The U.S. has strengthened alliances with Japan, South Korea, Australia, and NATO, sending a clear message. It will not stand by if China tries to alter the status quo by force. But this rivalry isn't confined to battlefields. It's fought through influence, who sets the rules of the global economy and who commands loyalty abroad. China's Belt and Road Initiative has poured billions into building railways, highways, ports, and power plants across Africa, the Middle East, and Latin America. For some nations, these projects offer a lifeline of investment. For others, they look like debt traps, a new kind of empire built not with colonies, but with contracts. The United States counters with its own tools, trade agreements, sanctions, and financial leverage through the IMF and World Bank. Wall Street remains the beating heart of global finance. The dollar is still the world's
reserve currency.
But China pushes back,
China
promoting
pushes
the
back,
yuan, building its own financial networks, and
building its
even leading
own
in digital
financial
currency
networks,
experiments.
and even leading in digital currency experiments. Money, as much as missiles, defines who writes the future.
And so, the stage is set. Military buildups, economic strategies, and a struggle for influence from Africa to Latin America. But the deeper question remains, is this truly a new Cold War? The US and Soviet Union once stood almost entirely apart, two camps with little economic overlap. The US and China, by contrast, are entwined. Their economies depend on one another. Their supply chains are interconnected. Their futures, for better or worse, are linked. Some argue this makes conflict inevitable, that a rising power and an established one cannot avoid collision. Others insist cooperation is the only way forward. Climate change, pandemics, energy security, space exploration, these challenges do not respect borders. They cannot be solved by one nation alone. The United States and China must decide. Will they compete to the brink of destruction or collaborate for survival? The Cold War defined the 20th century. Will a new one define the 21st? This is not just a story of nations. It is the story of us all. The question is simple, yet terrifying. Rivalry or cooperation? Destiny or disaster? The answer will shape the century we live in.